Here's a deep, detailed summary of the passage, explained step by step in simple and clear English, so that anyone, even a beginner, can fully understand it. 1. Setting the stage. The time and place. Around the year 1015-1016 CE, two great powers were active in Asia. The Song dynasty ruled China. It was a rich, powerful, and advanced empire. The Chinese people saw themselves as the most civilized in the world. The Chola Empire ruled South India. The Cholas were strong, wealthy, and controlled much of the Indian Ocean trade. Another major player was Srivijaya, a maritime kingdom, sea-based empire, located in Southeast Asia, mainly around Indonesia and Malaysia. They controlled the important Straits of Malacca, a key trade route between India and China. Number 2. The Chola Embassy to China. The Chola king sent an embassy, a group of messengers and officials, to visit the Chinese emperor of the Song dynasty. This was a formal, diplomatic visit, like one ruler sending trusted people to another ruler's palace. The goal was likely to build friendly political ties, open or improve trade relations, show off Chola power, culture, and respectability. 3. Chinese attitudes toward foreigners. At that time, the Chinese considered themselves the center of the world. They called China the Middle Kingdom. They believed all outsiders were barbarians, people who were uncivilized or less advanced. Foreigners had to prove they were special by showing wealth, gold, silk, fine goods, refined behavior, politeness, intelligence, proper manners. So when the Chola group arrived, the Chinese expected to see just more barbarians. But they were very surprised. The Cholas were dressed in luxury, very polite and respectful, carried expensive gifts, spoke and behaved with sophistication. 4. The Chinese response. The Chinese were deeply impressed. The emperor was so pleased that he ordered his officials to treat the Chola embassy with great regard, meaning high respect and honor. He invited them to his birthday celebration in early 1016, a rare and important gesture showing deep approval. Number 5. Gifts and recognition. After the visit, the Chola group returned home. They took with them an imperial edict, a formal royal document from the Chinese emperor that recognized the Cholas as important, rich gifts, likely or other valuable Chinese goods, possibly trade concessions. These are benefits like lower taxes, special trading rights, or easier access to Chinese markets. This was a diplomatic success for the Cholas. It meant China now recognized their power and was willing to trade and cooperate. Number 6. A hidden discovery, Srivijaya's deception. While the Cholas were in China, they learned something disturbing. The Srivijaya kingdom, their trade rival, had been lying to the Chinese. What Srivijaya did, Chinese officials that just vassals, inferior partners, or subordinates. This was a lie. The Cholas were actually more powerful than Srivijaya. Why did Srivijaya lie? To make themselves look more important, to get preferential treatment from China, like better trade deals, more influence in Chinese ports. 7. Why this visit was so important. Before the Cholas visited, the Chinese may have believed Srivijaya's lies. But after the Chola embassy came, the Chinese saw the truth that the Cholas were powerful, civilized, and independent. This likely damaged Srivijaya's false claims. It boosted the Chola's reputation in international politics and trade. The Chola now had official recognition from the greatest power in East Asia. 8. Historical significance. This event teaches us several important things. In history, how a kingdom presents itself matters. The Chola's elegant visit changed how China saw them. Powerful countries can manipulate influence like Srivijaya did, trade advantages. Diplomacy, image, and respect can shape global trade and politics, not just war or military power. Final summary, like a story. About 1,000 years ago, the Cholas of South India sent a group to China. The Chinese were surprised to see that these foreigners were actually rich, smart, and respectful. The Chinese emperor liked them so much, he treated them like royal guests and gave them gifts. But the Cholas also found out that another kingdom, Srivijaya, had been lying to China, saying the Cholas were their servants. This lie had helped Srivijaya get better trade deals. Now that the Chinese saw the truth with their own eyes, everything changed. The Cholas gained respect and influence in China, and Srivijaya's lies were exposed. Would you like this turned into a simple illustrated chart or comic to make it even easier to remember? Here's a deep, rich, and written in very simple language, so anyone, even someone totally new to this, can fully understand it. Summary: the Chola attack on Kadaram, Kedah, and its aftermath. 1. The reason behind the attack. Rajendra Chola, the emperor of the powerful Chola Empire in South India, found out something very insulting. The Srivijaya kingdom, which controlled important sea trade routes in Southeast Asia, had been spreading lies to the Chinese. They told the Chinese that the Cholas were just small vassals, like junior partners or weaker kingdoms under Srivijaya's control. This was complete. The Cholas were actually powerful at that time. But China believed Srivijaya, and this helped Srivijaya gain more benefits and trade privileges with the Chinese. Rajendra Chola was deeply insulted by this, and also saw a chance to gain wealth and power by punishing Srivijaya. 2. The attack on Kadaram, Kedah. Rajendra quickly sent his navy warships to attack Kadaram, now called Kedah, in modern Malaysia. This was a major city and port under Srivijaya's control. It was located near the Strait of Malacca, a very important sea passage between India and China. This was a bold and dangerous move because Indian kingdoms rarely sent military expeditions across the ocean. The Chola soldiers were probably unfamiliar with sea travel and may have gotten seasick. But even with that, they surprised the Srivijayans with their attack. The Srivijayans were experienced sea traders and warriors, but they were not ready for this kind of raid. 3. How the Cholas bragged about the attack. After the raid, Rajendra's court poet celebrated the victory in a poetic and clever way. He said, it was expected that Rajendra would beat enemies like the Chalukyas, called Tyla as an insult. But it was truly amazing that he could cross the ocean and burn Kadaram, comparing the city to a cooking pot, a kadai, and Rajendra's power to fire. This poetic line was meant to brag about Rajendra's bravery and the uniqueness of attacking across the sea. 4. The reaction from Srivijaya. Surprisingly, the Srivijayans didn't treat the attack as a big deal. They thought it was a one-time event and not the start of a war. 2 years after the raid, in 1018 CE, the king of Kedah sent a large amount of gold to a Hindu temple in Nagapattinam, a port city in the Chola kingdom. The gift was likely meant to say sorry for what had happened, keep the peace, and please the Brahmins, priests, who were respected and had influence in the Chola court. This was a clever diplomatic move. Instead of fighting back, they tried to smooth things over peacefully. 5. What happened next? After this, Rajendra Chola did not launch more attacks on Srivijaya, at least not immediately. Most of the other rich ports in Srivijaya's territory, especially on the island of Sumatra and along the Malay Peninsula, were left untouched. Rajendra turned his attention to other matters, like expanding his empire in India or building temples. So for the time being, Srivijaya's other cities continued to trade and grow without interruption. In short, what does this all mean? Rajendra Chola was angry and insulted when Srivijaya lied to China about his empire's status. He used this as a reason to attack and show his strength. His navy surprised and defeated an important Srivijayan port, Kadaram, Kedah. The Srivijayan king later sent gold gifts to make peace. Rajendra did not continue with more attacks, and other Srivijayan cities remained unharmed. This event shows how powerful the Cholas were, able to send ships far across the ocean. How important trade and reputation were in those times. That wars didn't always mean full conquest. Sometimes a single bold move and some diplomacy were enough to change relationships between kingdoms. Would you like a visual map, timeline, or a kid-friendly story version to go with this? Here is a deep and detailed summary of the passage, written in clear, simple language, so anyone can understand it. Summary, Chalukya Chola rivalry and the struggle for Vengi, 1020s CE. In the mid to late 1020s, the political map of South India was full of rivalries, shifting alliances, and power struggles. The two biggest powers fighting for control were the Western Chalukyas and the Cholas. A key battleground between them was the region of Vengi in today's Andhra Pradesh, which was both strategically and culturally important. 1. The Chalukyas push back. The Chalukya king Jayasimha II had just managed to defeat and remove the Paramaras, another royal family, from the Konkan region, a rich coastal area on India's western side. After that, he turned his focus to the Cholas, who had previously humiliated the Chalukyas by attacking their capital, Manyaketa. Now, Jayasimha II was determined to weaken Chola influence in the Deccan Plateau, central southern India. He expanded his reach southwards, slowly advancing toward the Krishna River, trying to push into areas where Chola influence was strong. 2. Prince Someshvara's political strategy. Jayasimha's son and heir, Prince Someshvara, was a clever and ambitious politician. He decided to use the internal problems of the Vengi kingdom to hurt the Cholas. He knew that the Cholas supported one side in a royal family dispute in Vengi. So, if the Cholas helped the opposing side, it could divide the region and give the Chalukyas more power. Shah 3. The civil war in Vengi. Vengi was caught in a dynastic conflict. There were two half-brothers, both claiming the throne. Raja Narendra, whose mother was a Chola princess, Kundavai. He was closely related to the Chola royal family, especially to Emperor Rajendra Chola, who was his uncle by marriage. Vijayaditya, whose mother belonged to a powerful Telugu clan. He had local support but lacked the royal Chola connection. This split in the royal family started a generation earlier when the Vengi kings had fled to the Chola court for protection. Now, that old event led to new rivalries. 4. Chalukya support for Vijayaditya. Vijayaditya, seeking help to fight for the throne, traveled to the Chalukya capital at Kalyana. There, Prince Someshvara welcomed him and agreed to help. He gave Vijayaditya military support, helping him gather an army to march into Vengi. With Chalukya help, Vijayaditya launched an invasion of Vengi and for a short time was successful. He declared himself king, taking the title Vijayaditya VII. 5. What this meant. This move created a major political problem for the Cholas. A region they considered under their control through Raja Narendra now had a rival king backed by their enemies. The Chalukyas had managed to disrupt the Chola hold over Vengi, create internal conflict in the region, open a new front in the ongoing Chalukya-Chola rivalry. Even though Vijayaditya's success may have been temporary, it was a smart political strike by the Chalukyas to challenge Chola power. Conclusion. A complex web of family, power, and politics. This entire episode shows how royal marriages, family rivalries, and military alliances were all tied together in medieval South Indian politics. The struggle for Vengi wasn't just about land. It was also about prestige, who had the right to rule, loyalty to family and allies, and strategy, using internal problems of enemies to one's advantage. It also highlights how sons and heirs, like Someshvara, played key roles in shaping the future of empires through both warfare and diplomacy. Map, a family tree, or a timeline to make this even easier to picture? Here's a deep, detailed, and very clear summary of the passage, written in the simplest language possible while still explaining everything important. Main idea. This passage explains a smart and sneaky political and military game between two powerful kingdoms in medieval India, the Cholas, ruled by Rajendra Chola in the south, and the Chalukya by Prince Someshvara in the Deccan. It also shows how Rajendra was not just reacting to attacks, but had a much bigger goal in mind, showing all of India that the Cholas were the most powerful empire and taking control of trade and influence even in the far north. What happened? Step by step. Someshvara's trick. The Chalukyas wanted to take over the Raichur Doab, a rich and fertile region, but they knew the Cholas might stop them if they attacked openly. So Someshvara helped a man named Vijayaditya VII, a rival prince in Vengi, start a fake war to take over Vengi. The real goal was to distract the Cholas, while the Chalukyas quietly took over Raichur Doab. 2. The Cholas respond quickly. Rajendra Chola's generals defeated Vijayaditya Sept in Vengi. Vijayaditya had to run away to Kalyana, the Chalukya capital. The Cholas then crowned Rajaraja Narendra, the half-brother of Vijayaditya, as king of Vengi, because he was related to the Cholas and loyal to them. 3. Rajendra Chola's bigger plan. Rajendra ignored the Chalukyas taking Raichur Doab, not because he didn't care, but because he had a bigger dream. He had been preparing for years to do something huge, train a massive army, build a strong navy, control the east coast of India, launch a grand military campaign to the north. 4. What Rajendra wanted. Rajendra wanted everyone in India to respect and fear the Chola Empire. He especially wanted to control the rich trade markets in Bengal and North India. Dynasty still ruled. He wanted to show the merchant groups of the East Coast that the Cholas now ruled the Indian Ocean trade. 5. Why Vengi was so important. By controlling Vengi, a region on the East Coast, Rajendra had safe territory for his army and ships. It gave him a base to move troops and supplies easily. This allowed him to plan a huge invasion of North India, just like the old Rashtrakuta kings did before him. 6. A bold mission. Rajendra wanted to march all the way to the Ganga River in the north. He wanted the Chola army's presence to be heard and feared in the most powerful part. It wasn't just about but prestige, power, and legacy. Rajendra Chola didn't fall for the Chalukyas' trap. He beat them in Vengi, but let them keep a small win in another place, because he was thinking much bigger. He had spent years building a super strong army to march all the way to North India and tell everyone. The Cholas are the greatest empire in India now, from the southern seas to the Holy Ganga. Would you like me to summarize the whole Chola-Chalukya-Vengi conflict into a single diagram or timeline to make it even easier to remember? Here's a deep, clear, and simple summary of the passage you shared, written for full understanding, like the best teacher explaining to a beginner. What happened in 1022 to 1023? In the year 1022, Rajendra Chola the emperor of the Chola dynasty in South India, sent a huge military expedition to North India, all the way to Bengal on the other side of the country. Who led the army? The army was led by a senior and experienced Chola general. He had grand titles, Arayan Rajarajan, which means Rajaraja's nobleman, to honor Rajendra's father. Jakulakala, which means Dishan, showing his fearsome reputation. Where did the army go? The army marched up India's east coast, fighting its way through Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Bengal. This journey and campaign took about 2 years. What did the army do? They attacked and captured many cities. They destroyed some towns. They defeated 3 local kings in Bengal who tried to stop them. These kings were under the Pala dynasty, the rulers of Bengal. The Chola army took elephants, women, and treasure from the defeated kingdoms. Some city names were recorded, but their exact locations are debated today. Tandabuti, Takanalaladam, Madura Mandalam, Namanaikanam, Panchapali. Why was this campaign so impressive? Very long distance operation, marching hundreds of kilometers from South India to East North India. It needed huge planning, supplies, and tactics. You couldn't just move an army that far without amazing organization. Propaganda. Chola inscriptions and records describe the campaign to show Rajendra's greatness. Even if some details were exaggerated, most historians agree the Cholas pulled off a major and rare feat. A grand symbolic ending. The Ganga water. After reaching Bengal, the Cholas collected water from the holy Ganga river. The water was carried back to South India, possibly in containers made from Bengal's clay, and maybe even on elephants. This was not just about religion. It was a powerful symbol of conquest. The Ganga was the heart of North India. Bringing its water south meant we conquered even the Ganga. The celebration, a new capital city. Rajendra Chola built a new capital city to celebrate this victory. He named it Gangaikonda Cholapuram, the city of the Chola who conquered the Ganga. It became a huge city with temples, art, and truth. It stood as a permanent reminder of Rajendra's power and achievement. Why did Rajendra do all this? He wanted to show all Indian rulers that the Cholas were the strongest power in the land. He wanted to control trade routes, especially those in Bengal, which connected to northern India and Southeast Asia. This was a message of dominance, not just a war, but a political and economic move. Summary in one sentence. Rajendra Chola sent a massive, well-planned military campaign across eastern India to Bengal, defeated kings, brought back Ganga water as a symbol of victory, and built a city to show the world that the Cholas were the most powerful empire in India. Would you like a timeline, map, or visual diagram of this campaign and Rajendra's empire next? Here's a detailed summary of the passage and clear English, and organized in a way that helps you understand everything fully, as if you're learning from the best teacher. 1. The Chalukya dynasty's moment of hope. Around the early 1020s, the Chalukya dynasty, ruling in the Deccan region, central southern India, was in a hopeful and strong position. King Jayasimha II was ruling with confidence, and his son, Prince Samshvara, was being praised as a smart and successful. They had a major rival dynasty, the Paras from Madhya Pradesh. The Paramaras had been forced out of the Konkan, an important coastal area where trade happened through seaports. Because of this victory, port cities on the west coast were now respecting and following the Chalukya king again. Although they had lost the kingdom of Vengi in coastal Andhra Pradesh, they had won control over a rich area between two rivers, the Krishna and the Tungabhadra. That land was very fertile, great for farming and collecting taxes. In short, the Chalukyas were recovering and rising again. They were probably planning their next steps to take back Gangavati, a region in southern Karnataka, to try again to control Vengi, to fully absorb Konkan into their empire, and maybe even to attack Malwa, where the Paramaras were still powerful. At this moment, things seemed to be finally going right for the Chalukyas after many hard years. 2. The celebration of Prince Someshvara. The Chalukya court celebrated Prince Someshvara like a hero. In the army camps, which moved from place to place, women from the royal court threw flower petals on him. Poets wrote songs and poems about how clever and skilled he was as a leader in Kannada, their local language, and Sanskrit, used by scholars and priests. The army generals and ministers gave him jewels, gold, and new royal titles. This shows that the royal court believed Samshvara would be the next great Chalukya king, possibly the one to fully restore the dynasty's power. It felt like good fortune had finally returned to the Chalukyas. Everyone was hopeful and energized. Rajendra Chola's North India expedition begins, but then something happened that shattered these dreams. Rajendra Chola, the powerful king of the Chola dynasty, based in Tamil Nadu, began a massive military campaign toward northern India around 1022 to 1023 AD. He took a huge, powerful army and began conquering North one by one. This wasn't just a local war. It was a huge, daring expedition to prove that the Cholas were the greatest empire in all of India. As the expedition progressed, the Chalukyas started getting frightening reports from their informants, spies, their client states, smaller allies or rulers loyal, and their vassals, local kings under their control. All these reports said the same thing. The Chola are unstoppable. They're winning everywhere. They are more powerful than we thought. The Chalukyas were shocked and frightened. Their plans to expand suddenly looked unrealistic. Their dreams of victory began to fall apart. 4. The Chalukyas try to fight back secretly. Desperate to stop the Cholas or slow them down, the Chalukyas tried to fight back, not directly, but secretly. They helped the kings of Odisha and Chhattisgarh by giving them support, hoping these smaller kingdoms would attack or distract the Cholas during their big expedition. The Chalukyas were hoping to sabotage the Chola campaign or humiliate them by causing them trouble along the way. But this plan failed. The Chola army was so strong, well prepared, and determined that it defeated every obstacle. 5. What made the Cholas so powerful? The Chola military power was more than just its size. It had experienced commanders, rich resources, and very good organization. But more importantly, it wasn't just made up of people from Tamil Nadu. The Chola army included many Deccani fighters and commanders from other parts of India, including possibly even some people who had once served the Chalukyas. This shows us that medieval India was very different from today's world of states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. People moved, worked, and even fought across regions. Kingdoms weren't built on one language or one culture. They were mixed and flexible. This fact challenges the idea that people back then always stayed with their own region or language group. 6. No one could stop the Cholas. The Cholas became so powerful during this time that no group of Indian kings could form a strong enough alliance to stand up to them. Traders and merchants, who had money and influence, couldn't stop them. Even religious institutions, like temples, which were rich and powerful back then, couldn't challenge them. Their empire had become an unstoppable machine. The Cholas were rich due to trade and taxes, organized, strong central control, and militarily unmatched. So for everyone else, including the Chalukyas, there was really only one choice: submit, surrender, accept the power of the Cholas. Final message: a turning point in Indian history. This moment in history was very important because it shows how powerful the Cholas became, not just in the south, but all over India. How fragile the dreams of even strong dynasties like the Chalukyas could be. How connected and mixed medieval India was, not divided like modern Indian states. And how imperial power like that of Rajendra Cholas could change the plans of every rival kingdom. Would you like a timeline of these events, or a visual summary, map, flowchart, etc.? Here is a deep, detailed summary written in the simplest way possible, so even someone new to history can understand every idea. Deep, detailed summary, super simple English. In the early 1000 CE, in southern India, the Chalukya kingdom was going through a difficult and confusing time. 1. Big problems inside the royal court. At the time was Jayasimha II, the Chalukya Vallabha. Inside his court, his palace and government, there were different groups arguing about what to do. Some wanted to go to war, others wanted to be careful or peaceful. These factions, small groups with different opinions, were fighting with each other verbally, and it made the court unstable. 2. Warriors wanted action and glory. Many young nobles in the Chalukya kingdom had trained very hard all their lives to be warriors. They grew up after the older Rashtrakuta Empire had fallen. They were taught that the Chalukyas were now the rightful, proud rulers of their land. These nobles were filled with passion. They wanted to go to war, prove their strength, win fame, and show off their battle skills to the world. They wanted glory and rewards, and they were angry that the king was not taking bold action. 3. King Jayasimha faced a major threat. Jayasimha II had given himself a bold nickname. He said he was like a lion, and his enemy, Rajendra Chola, the powerful Chola king from Tamil Nadu, was like an elephant. In Indian tradition, lions and elephants are both strong. So this was like saying, I will defeat him. But the reality was very different. The Cholas were very powerful, and Jayasimha's position was not secure. Because he wasn't leading boldly, people started to doubt him. Some even tried to remove him from power. This is called a coup attempt. Number 4. Saved by his loyal general. We don't know many details because the king's records kept this secret, probably to protect his image. But we know that a loyal and powerful general named Kalidasa acted quickly and smartly and saved Jayasimha from losing his throne. Kalidasa said that the government had become weak, and many other generals and vassals, lesser kings, had betrayed Jayasimha. Kalidasa stepped in and took control, helping hold the kingdom together. Number 5. This was just the beginning of hard times. Even though Jayasima was saved, the situation was still dangerous. The Chola Empire was becoming strong. The Chalukya kingdom was still in trouble, and even worse problems were coming in the future. This moment was a warning sign that the Chalukyas were losing power, and the Deccan region, central India, was about to face more war, more betrayal, and more chaos. This passage shows us the pressure inside a royal court when a king seems weak, the ambition of young warriors who want battle and glory, how royal power can be shaken by internal division and outside threats, how a single loyal general can save a king but can't stop the deeper storm coming. Would you like a timeline or a visual map to go with this? Here is a deep, detailed summary written in the simplest way possible, so even someone new to history can understand every idea. Deep, detailed summary, super simple English. In the early 1000 CE, in southern India, the Chalukya kingdom was going through a difficult and confusing time. 1. Big problems inside the royal court. At the time was Jayasima II, the Chalukya Vallabha. Inside his court, his palace and government, there were different groups arguing about what to do. Some wanted to go to war, others wanted to be careful or peaceful. These factions, small groups with different opinions, were fighting with each other verbally, and it made the court unstable. 2. Warriors wanted action and glory. Many young nobles in the Chalukya kingdom had trained very hard all their lives to be warriors. They grew up after the older Rashtrakuta Empire had fallen. They were taught that the Chalukyas were now the rightful, proud rulers of their land. These nobles were filled with passion. They wanted to go to war, prove their strength, win fame, and show off their battle skills to the world. They wanted glory and rewards, and they were angry that the king was not taking bold action. 3. King Jayasimha faced a major threat. Jayasima II had given himself a bold nickname. He said he was like a lion, and his enemy, Rajendra Chola, the powerful Chola king from Tamil Nadu, was like an elephant. In Indian tradition, lions and elephants are both strong. So this was like saying, I will defeat him. But the reality was very different. The Cholas were very powerful, and Jayasima's position was not secure. Because he wasn't leading boldly, people started to doubt him. Some even tried to remove him from power. This is called a coup attempt. Number 4. Saved by his loyal general. We don't know many details because the king's records kept this secret, probably to protect his image. But we know that a loyal and powerful general named Kalidasa acted quickly and smartly and saved Jayasimha from losing his throne. Kalidasa said that the government had become weak, and many other generals and vassals, lesser kings, had betrayed Jayasima. Kalidasa stepped in and took control, helping hold the kingdom together. Number 5. This was just the beginning of hard times. Even though Jayasima was saved, the situation was still dangerous. The Chola Empire was becoming strong. The Chalukya kingdom was still in trouble, and even worse problems were coming in the future. This moment was a warning sign that the Chalukyas were losing power, and the Deccan region, central India, was about to face more war, more betrayal, and more chaos. This passage shows us the pressure inside a royal court when a king seems weak, the ambition of young warriors who want battle and glory, how royal power can be shaken by internal division and outside threats, how a single loyal general can save a king but can't stop the deeper storm coming. Would you like a timeline or a visual map to go with this? Here is a deep, detailed, and very simple summary of the passage you shared, with everything clearly explained. Deep summary. Since in power and war. In the 1020s, Samshvara, the young crown prince of the Chalukya dynasty, was learning some very hard lessons about what it meant to rule and protect an empire. 1. A young prince watching a dangerous world. Samshvara saw how dangerous the world of kings and empires could be. He had already shown skill in politics by supporting a relative, Vijayaditya II, in Vengi, a region in coastal Andhra Pradesh, to become king. This wasn't just kindness, it was a smart political move to create a strong ally. Tact 2. A powerful friendship. Samshvara and Vijayaditya became very close friends, like brothers. They faced many hardships and threats together. We can imagine them riding elephants in parades and hunting together on fancy foreign horses, proving their bravery and fitness to rule. These were royal rituals that showed they were strong, manly, and ready to lead. 3. The Chola threat. While the Chalukyas were planning their future, a huge shock came from the south. The Chola Empire, under King Rajendra Chola, launched massive military campaigns. The Cholas were incredibly powerful and didn't follow the usual rules of kingship. Unlike other enemies, the Cholas were ruthless, destroying anything in their way, not interested in peace or compromise, so powerful that no alliance could stop them. The Cholas scared not just the Chalukyas, but most of India. Top 4. Old traditions of honor in war. Samshvara had been taught that war should have some rules and honor. Don't kill needlessly. Show respect to defeated nobles. Be compassionate as well as strong. Give enemies a chance to surrender and even get their lands back if they respected your rule. Great kings of the past, like Vikramaditya II, Chalukya, Govinda III, and Dhruva, Rashtrakutas, had followed this chivalrous style of ruling, mixing power with mercy. This was seen as the correct way of behaving, a king who followed dharma, moral order. 5. But the Cholas broke these rules. The Cholas didn't care about these ideas of honor, mercy, or compassion. They were like a force of nature, crushing whatever stood in their way. To rulers like Sameshvara, this was shocking and terrifying. It made him realize the old way of ruling might not survive if enemies like the Cholas took over. 6. What Samshvara learned. Samshvara learned that the world was changing fast. Old ideas about honor in war were being replaced by raw power. He had to be smart and strong, and possibly adapt to these new, harsher realities. This time in his life was like a school for future kings, and the Cholas were the cruel teachers showing him what kind of enemy he would face. In short, the young Chalukya prince was growing up during a scary and changing time, formed strong alliances, learned about leadership and bravery, and saw that powerful new enemies like the Cholas didn't follow the old traditions of mercy and honor. This taught him hard truths about war, kingship, and the kind of ruler he might need to become to survive and protect his people. Would you like a visual summary, map, or character chart to help you remember all these details better? Here is a deep, detailed, and simple summary of the shared. Big summary in simple words. The Chola Empire, led by kings like Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola, was extremely powerful, smart, and aggressive. They didn't follow the old traditions of royal behavior, like showing mercy or honoring defeated kings. Instead, they focused only on winning wars, taking land, and ruling with strength. No matter how cruel that made them, they conquered regions like Lanka, Sri Lanka, Andhra, Odisha, Kerala, and Bengal, and renamed these lands after themselves to show their total control. They built big cities and temples with the wealth they looted during wars. But they also captured women from defeated kingdoms and forced them into servitude, which shows the dark, violent side of their empire. The Chola Empire grew richer and stronger, but at a heavy cost to many people. Meanwhile, Samshvara, a prince from the Chalukya dynasty, was watching all of this unfold. He realized he could not fight the Cholas directly. They were too ruthless and too powerful. All he could do was learn from them, survive, and wait for his time. Key details to remember. 1. The Cholas broke the rules. Other Indian kings had a code of honor in war. Show mercy, allow defeated kings to rule again. The Cholas did not follow these rules. They only cared about real results and power. 2. Chola conquests and renaming. They didn't just defeat kingdoms, they completely took over and renamed them. Lanka became Mumudi Chola Mandalam. Northern Tamil land became Jayangonda Cholamandalam. Kaveri Delta became Cholamandalam, still known today as Coromandel. 3. Empire through war. They kept fighting, stealing treasure, and building temples. This made their cities wealthy and full of people. But it also meant great suffering for many, especially captured women, who were forced to serve in palaces. 4. Samshvara's reaction. He was deeply affected by what he saw. The Cholas were not like old enemies, like the Paramaras. He realized they were far more dangerous and unpredictable. His only choice: stay alive, be smart, learn, and wait for a better chance to fight back. Tone and message. This passage shows two sides of a great empire. On one side, success, growth, and strength. On the other, destruction and suffering. It also shows how brilliant young Samshvara must adapt when facing ruthless enemies. They can't always fight directly. They must use patience, politics, and planning. Would you like a timeline or character chart to help keep track of who's who? Here is a deep and detailed summary in simplest language so that anyone can understand it, even without any background in history. It was who was involved. Rajendra Chola, a powerful king from South India, from the Chola dynasty. Srivijaya Empire, a rich kingdom in Southeast Asia, modern Indonesia, Malaysia area. It was a major center of time. What happened? Rajendra Chola had already proven himself by conquering many parts of India, the north, south, and west. But he was not satisfied. He wanted to do something no Indian king had done before. So he planned a huge and dangerous sea attack on a foreign empire, Srivijaya, which was across the ocean. This campaign was very risky and bold because Indian armies usually fought on land, not across seas. Traveling by sea over long distances in that time, over 1,000 years ago, was very dangerous. There were no ships like today. It was very easy to get lost or caught in storms. Still, Rajendra sent a navy or fleet of ships across the sea to attack Srivijaya's cities. Why did he do it? 1. Revenge and power. Srivijaya had tried to act more powerful than the Cholas in the court of China, the Song dynasty. Rajendra wanted to punish them for that. 2. Glory and wealth. Srivijaya controlled rich trade routes, and their cities had lots of gold and goods. To become the greatest king, Rajendra wanted to go beyond the achievements of even his famous father, Rajaraja Chola. What was the result? By early 1026, the Chola navy returned to India's east coast, the Coromandel coast, with huge amounts of treasure. The scene of the fleet coming back must have been spectacular, with colorful flags, drums, soldiers, and ships filled with riches. A huge success. Why was this so important? No other Indian king had conquered across the sea like this. Rajendra became the first Indian ruler to lead a successful overseas military campaign. He showed that the Chola Empire was not just a regional kingdom but a global naval power. His victory outshone even the greatest kings before him, including Dhruva of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, his own father, Rajaraja Chola, builders of grand temples like the Krishneshvara temple at Ellora and Thanjavur temple. What else did he do after victory? He renamed some conquered places to show that they were the Chola Empire. These actions made sure people remembered his victories for generations. Final summary in one short paragraph. Rajendra Chola was a South Indian king who made history by sending his navy across the ocean to attack the powerful Srivijaya Empire in Southeast Asia. He did this to punish them for challenging his authority and to win glory. His fleet returned in 1026 with treasure and success, making this one of the most daring and successful military campaigns in medieval Indian history. No other Indian king had ever done such a bold sea expedition before him. Would you like me to turn this into a storybook-style version or a comic-style? Here is a deep, detailed, yet simple summary of the passage you gave. Context. Rajendra Chola was a very powerful king of South in the 11th century. He had already cut north, south, and west, but his hunger for power and reputation didn't stop there. 1. Rajendra Chola's next big target, Srivijaya. Srivijaya was a rich kingdom located in Southeast Asia, modern Indonesia, Malaysia, and nearby islands. It controlled important trade routes and had close ties with the powerful Chinese Song dynasty. Srivijaya had tried to present itself as more powerful than the Cholas in the Chinese court. This angered Rajendra Chola. 2. A daring naval mission. Rajendra decided to punish Srivijaya by launching a naval attack, a rare and risky thing of that time. Around the year 1025 CE, he sent a large Chola fleet across the sea. The fleet attacked several Srivijayan cities, especially Kedah, also called Kataram, a major port city. 3. What happened in Kedah? The Cholas claimed they captured the king of Kedah along with many elephants and great treasures. Important gates from the city, decorated with jewels, were taken back to the Chola capital as war trophies. These gates were put on public display to show off the Chola king's power and success. 4. The legendary city of Srivijaya. The capital of Srivijaya was Palembang. It was a rich trade hub. Arab traders said Palembang was so wealthy that one street had 800 money changers. It was hard to invade because of the rivers and terrain protecting it. Still, Rajendra claimed he defeated the city, but the records don't give solid proof. Historians believe he likely attacked, but did not fully capture it. Akin 5. The bigger picture. Rajendra Chola's expedition was unmatched in medieval Indian history. No other Indian king had crossed the ocean to carry out such a military strike until the British Empire, centuries later. His victory showed the power of the Chola navy, their wealth, ambition, and boldness. The treasures, gates, and war spoils displayed in his city were a way to tell his people, "Look how powerful and victorious I am." Would you like a map or illustrated diagram to help visualize this? Sure. Here's a detailed and very simple summary of it, like a full story you can easily understand and remember. The story of Rajendra Chola's Great Sea Adventure. A simplified, detailed summary. About 1,000 years ago in South India, there lived a powerful king named Rajendra Chola. He ruled the Chola Empire, one of the richest and strongest kingdoms in India at the time. Rajendra was the son of Rajaraja Chola, another great king who started building this empire. But Rajendra wanted to go even further. He didn't just want to be a great king. He wanted to be the greatest king anyone had ever heard of. In those days, kings proved their greatness by winning battles. The farther they went to defeat enemies, the more famous they became. If a king fought only nearby kingdoms, that was no. But if it marched across far lands, or even across the sea, people saw that as truly legendary. Rajendra did something that was unheard of at that time. He built a huge navy, loaded his soldiers onto ships, and sailed across the ocean. His goal? To attack the rich and powerful Srivijaya Empire, located in Southeast Asia, in places that are now part of Indonesia and Malaysia. Where did he go? What did he conquer? According to records written by Rajendra's men and poets, his army attacked many cities. City 1. On the island of Sumatra, Indonesia today, now called Layur, now called Jambi, Melamuridisa, now called Lemuri. These were rich cities near the sea. They were important stops for ships that traded goods like gold, spices, and cloth. 2. On the Malay Peninsula, Malaysia, Thailand today. He claimed to have captured more cities. Papalam, Ilipengam, Valepanduru. These names are hard to match with modern cities, but they were real places back then, likely strong ports and towns connected to trade. 3. The Nicobar Islands. He even sent his army to the Nicobar Islands, which lie in the sea between India and Southeast Asia. He placed there Nara, and described it as so beautiful that its gardens looked like a belt worn by a sis. Why did he do it? Rajendra didn't just do this to get treasure. He wanted respect, fame, and glory. Back in India, the farther a king went to defeat enemies, the more people admired him. Most kings fought within India, but Rajendra went across the sea and came back victorious. That was a big deal. He wanted everyone to see him as the strongest king in the world. He also wanted to control trade routes. Places like Srivijaya were rich because ships from all over Asia stopped there to trade. If Rajendra could show he was powerful even there, he could get a bigger share of that wealth. How did people find out? Rajendra made sure everyone knew about what he did. He held parades and ceremonies. He built temples and stone inscriptions that listed all the places he said he had conquered. His victories were turned into poems and songs. He wanted people to remember his name forever. And it worked. Word of his victories spread quickly. People who traded, traveled, or visited temples carried stories about Rajendra Chola far and wide. It was like news going viral today. What was happening elsewhere? At the same time, another powerful king in India, Jayasimha II of the Chalukya dynasty, was struggling. His kingdom was in the Deccan region, central southern India, and his armies were just trying to survive and hold their land. While Jayasimha's forces were weak and confused, Rajendra's army was sailing across oceans and crushing cities. This made Rajendra look far more powerful than any other king in India at the time. He became a kind of superstar king. Was it all true? Some of the things Rajendra said may have been exaggerated. Kings often added extra glory to their stories to look even greater, but there's strong evidence that he really did. Send ships, attack Srivijaya, win battles, take home treasure. So while some names or details might not be perfect, the main story is very real. Rajendra Chola took his army across the sea and shocked the world with his power. Why is this important? Rajendra Chola's expedition is one of the greatest overseas military campaigns in Indian history. It shows ancient India had powerful navies. Indian kings thought beyond just land battles. Trade and war were connected even 1,000 years ago. Rajendra was a leader who thought big and acted bold. He didn't just want to win wars. He wanted to change Hypalsaw power. And he did. Would you like a map or timeline of Rajendra's journey next? Here's a deep, detailed, and easy-to-understand summary of the passage you gave, with all important ideas explained clearly. Think of it like a well-told story, helping you fully understand what really happened after Rajendra Chola's famous sea raid, Rajendra Chola's Great Raid, what it really meant. Many people today look at Rajendra Chola as a symbol of Indian power and pride. They admire how he took his navy across the sea and attacked the Srivijaya Empire, which was far away in Southeast Asia. It seems like an amazing success, a king who dared to go where no Indian king had gone before. But if we look closely, we find that the real picture was more complex. The fear he created. Back in those days, around the 11th century, kings and peoples of India, especially in the daring for Rajendra, they were probably feeling afraid, even hopeless. Why? Because Rajendra was rising very fast. He showed off his power by destroying cities, stealing treasure, and winning battles far from home. He looked like a king who couldn't be stopped, like a storm that was in his path. This made other rulers feel weak and unsure about their future. The victories looked bigger than they really were. Even though Rajendra showed off his victories in grand parades, carrying treasure from Bengal and Indonesia, having songs written about him, his success wasn't as deep as it looked. He didn't actually conquer or rule those faraway places. What he really did was a large-scale raid, a surprise attack too. Grab loot, gold, jewels, goods, show his power to other kingdoms, impress his own people at home. The Srivijaya Empire, even though it lost money and suffered damage, didn't collapse. It recovered very quickly and was back in business within just a few years. Srivijaya recovered quickly. By the year 1028, which is just 3 years after the Chola attack, Srivijaya's traders were again sending ships to China. Ports like Guangzhou in China were once again full of Srivijayan merchants. This tells us something important. Rajendra scared them, but he did not destroy them. Srivijaya was still strong enough to continue its powerful trade network. Rajendra moved on. After the attack, Rajendra didn't keep focusing on Srivijaya. He felt that he had already sent a strong message, damaged their pride and power, won honor and fame. So he lost interest in controlling or ruling Srivijaya. Instead, he started thinking about bigger, like using trade bits to fund more wars in India. Making peace with Srivijaya. Though he didn't try to take over Srivijaya, Rajendra may have done something smart. He possibly arranged marriages between his family and important royal families in Southeast Asia. This was a political strategy to build peace and maybe even influence those places without fighting. Rajendra's focus on trade and fame. Rajendra understood that money from trade was the key to military power. So he worked to stay important in international trade. In 1033, he sent an embassy to China, a group of messengers. They brought a letter written in gold leaf, super fancy. They scattered pearls before the Chinese emperor, a dramatic gesture. The Chinese court was impressed, and they gave Rajendra special honorary titles, like Grand Master Golden Seal, Civil. These were symbolic gifts of respect, showing that Rajendra was seen as an important ruler even by the mighty Chinese empire. Final summary. What this really was. Rajendra Chola's attack on Srivijaya was not a conquest, but a huge dramatic raid. It was meant to shock enemies, win treasure, and boost his image in India and abroad. Srivijaya was hurt, but not destroyed. It came back strong in just a few years. Rajendra used the fame from this raid to gain respect, strengthen trade, and fund wars in India. He showed smart diplomacy by sending embassies and building connections with China and Southeast Asia. In simple words, Rajendra flexed his muscles, showed off his power, and then moved on. His goal wasn't to rule foreign lands, but to make sure everyone knew how strong he was, from India to China. And in that, he succeeded brilliantly, even if the real effect on Srivijaya was short-term. Would you like a visual timeline or map of Rajendra's campaign's summary?